we created a guideline manual for young adults, kind of a how-to to start your own young adult ministry within your parish. Even if it just involves 1 or 2 people, that's all that matters. So we're on our final drafts of that. We're coming to near completion. We would like for Sayana to review it and possibly write something for the young adults today and for our future. With that, one of our biggest long-term goals is planning the structure of a D-Law Yam Constitution. So that is something that we've been all thinking about very largely, and we really want to put something set in stone for our diocese that could lead to for our future generations to come. So thank you all so much again. Thank you, Church of the Redeemer, Father Sammer, and your beautiful family, for everyone here that was involved. Thank you again. Thank you, Sayana.
Thank you, Esther. And now we're going to hear from Michelle Lava as the Vice President of the Antiochian Women. For those of you who know Charmaine, the President, she's with her mother who's not doing well and would enjoy all of your prayers for her health. She's in a life-threatening situation in the hospital, and so we pray for her. And in the meantime, Michelle is here to not only run the meeting that was held earlier today, but to make the presentation. Michelle?
Thank you. Your Eminence, Metropolitan Joseph, very spiritual leaders, officers, and Antiochian men and women. I am here as Vice President to give Charmaine's report. And she sends her apologies, and we both want to thank the Church of the Redeemer for their dedication and work in preparation and hosting the PLC. And with God's guidance, we're happy to report that the Antiochian Women, Diocese of LA and the West, are thriving. All of our geographically challenged dioceses are women busy with matters spiritual, in fellowship together, and in countless humanitarian and charitable acts. And I'm reading because Charmaine was very specific about me not forgetting any of the wonderful things that our ladies have accomplished. So, on a diocese level, annually, we continue to support our youth at the Sacred Music Conference with a $1,000 donation towards travel for the youth of our diocese to the Antiochian Village. We have adopted a child through the Archdiocese Children's Relief Program in Lebanon. We remember our beloved 20 widowed clergy wives with birthdays, Christmas cards, small gifts, and usually a $50 gift card at Pascha. At Christmas time, we designate $2,000 to the mission clergy with the guidance of Metropolitan Joseph on who we give those. We also, at Christmas time, we support each of our diocese seminarians with a gift of $200. Additionally, multiple parishes are now also holding their own fundraisers and sending funds to our diocese seminarians, which I know they really appreciate. We get lots and lots of thank you notes back. We donated $500 to Orthodox Christian Fellowship to support Orthodox mission ministry on college campuses. And something new and exciting this year was a gift of our newest missions, St. Paisios of Yuma, Arizona, and St. George of Utah, with gold aculite robes that were generously made by Anna, a professional seamstress from St. James Modesto, who donated her time sewing them and thereby saving us the labor costs, so we were able to also donate a monetary gift to those missions. We continue to hold our monthly sewing bee, which I don't know if any of you have ever, sewing bee is an interesting name because it's actually a talk given by different very spiritual people, clergy and non, in our community. And it's hosted, let's see, she has here, the most recent one was in June, with Presbyteria Havens, sharing how coming to an Orthodox Christian faith helped her heal from the trauma of being a student at Columbine High the day of their shooting. But all of our presentations are archived on our Facebook page. You don't have to be a member of Facebook to access them. You just have to go to our diocese page. Let's see. Our Lenten retreat this year at Camp St. Nicholas. It was an amazing success. We had over 90 women and 18 parishes in attendance. And our spiritual enlightenment and chance to get together, like in my own words, was so amazing to have us all together and in person. Let's see. There's 2 moms retreats coming up that she's just actually secured the dates for, one in January and one in February, one in Northern California and Southern California. And all of our dioceses, our women, of course, are very hard work, helping to feed and clothe the hungry and the homeless, offering assistance to women and children in domestic violence shelters, looking for safer life, offers support to pregnancy resource centers to encourage women in their crisis pregnancies and choose life, sending care packages to our college students to remind them of their churches, that their churches care about them, supporting families of prisoners who, by sending letters to our Orthodox Christian ministries, and supporting our monasteries both on work sites and in donations. And of course, much, much more. I know we only have 5 minutes. So finally, we give thanks for the guidance of our spiritual advisor, Father David Hovick, and for his support of our ministry by Sayed Joseph. We thank you, and if there's any questions, I don't know if I filled up my 5 minutes. Tried to read fast. No? Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And now we're going to hear from Father John Mafuz, the pastor of St. Matthew's at Torrance, but he's also the president at this time of the newly formed Antiochian Men organization. And they had a nice meeting today, and I'll let Father John tell you.
Your Eminence, said my brother clergy and brothers and sisters in Christ, saying it's such a joy to have you back home. And if it's the right time, I make a motion to move the Archdiocese to Southern California.
I second.
I'm trying to figure out how to use up my 5 minutes.
It's saying that loves Alaska.
So we had today, for the first time in our diocese, a meeting of the Antiochian Men in person at the Parish Life Conference. Since I was a child, coming to Parish Life Conferences and being involved in the diocese, there's always been this kind of question at the Parish Life Conferences, especially if, there's the Antiochian Women's meeting, and there's the Young Adults meeting, and the Teens meeting, and where are all the men? What are they doing? They're usually just hanging out in the lobby having their coffee. So I said, let's give them a room to have their coffee in. And so, inspired by the Antiochian women during COVID, when they were posting these really beautiful presentations online, I petitioned to say that to officially get off the ground a men's ministry, to be able to, at the very least, produce some online presentations for the men, since noticing as I was watching some of the women's presentations that there would be men checking into the presentations as well and watching it. So with Satan's blessing, we got the organization off the ground. I don't know that I necessarily have any sort of specific position, but aside from the responsibility with Satan's blessing to get this off the ground. This started during COVID about 2 years ago, and since then we've had few presentations that were done online. We had a virtual meeting at the fall gathering that was hosted by my parish, St. Matthew, a few years ago. We had a virtual meeting with presentation last year at the virtual Parish Life Conference, and then we also had a virtual meeting again at the previous fall gathering. This is the first in-person Parish Life Conference that we've had since the organization was formed, and we actually had an in-person meeting today, which was very fruitful, sharing what our parishes are doing and having a presentation as well. It's really beautiful to hear from the various clergy and faithful men about what their parishes are doing. Every parish, in some form or another, whether in an organized way or in an organic way, have some ministries by the men, for the men, to cultivate that brotherhood that is much needed today. And I wanted to share some stats that I shared with the men today. First is a statistic that's not necessarily new, but it's very important. And that is in a study of families with regards to participation in their faith. A study was done, and they found that a family that has a mother that's very pious and faithful, but a father who's not very active in the faith, the children have a very low percentage chance of being active in the faith. When you switch the roles and you have the father as a very active role, pious person who's active in their faith, and the mother is not, the statistic for the children actually jump greatly. And it increases slightly when the mother is also involved. It shows the natural influence that the father has in the family. We also see that in our society with more broken families with absent fathers. We see the result of that in the children and what's happening in our society. This shows us that the role of the father and the man in the family, as well in the parish community, has a very important role. We also see a societal shift with all the confusion in gender and identity that exists. We see in general a feminization of men, and this there's something to be said about that and the role of man today. We also are seeing a population shift in the church. And when I reached out to all my brother clergy, I asked them to share with me if what I'm seeing is common across the board, and it is. That there's a big influx in general of people into orthodoxy right now. They're primarily men. There's a lot of men coming into the church. There are some women, many of them coming with their husbands, but it's primarily men. When I was a young man, there were many Orthodox girls and not as many active Orthodox men around. It's a change now. Actually, my parish had many Orthodox men and not so many Orthodox young ladies, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to marry these guys off. So now the advertisement, if you have pious Orthodox women in your parish, please send them to St. Matthew in Torrance. But God willing, with the beautiful work that Esther is doing with the young adult ministry, there will be more opportunities for young Orthodox women from across the diocese to hopefully come and meet these Orthodox men that we have. But there's this population shift. With all that, we see the importance of having this ministry and this work, which my hope is to have focused on cultivating the life of Christ in men. Cultivating an inner life that's dedicated to the service of God and His church and society. To the raising up and cultivating of pious and faithful men in the church, and pious and faithful future monastics and clergy. We need more clergy. We need more monastics. We need more, as Satan is always reminding us, pious, faithful men, and young people especially, as an army, as Satan likes to say, to lead the way, to do the good work that the church brings to us. And so this is what we're focusing on, and this is what we're going to try to cultivate. I'm in the works of trying to identify laymen to take leadership roles in the organization, to take it more off the ground, and this is where we are while trying to produce presentations and whatnot. My hopes, I know with your blessing, is that we will have maybe this coming year an Antiochian men's retreat as well, to bring the men together either at Camp St. Nicholas or in multiple places within the diocese for them to come together and retreat. And lastly, I petition that maybe I don't think it's needed for the Antiochian men to be in another philanthropic group. I asked him that maybe the Antiochian women who are so great at philanthropy, maybe the Antiochian men could be the ones who spend the money that they raise. He didn't say no. He didn't say anything. But I'll take that as something that he's considering. But thank you, Satan, for your prayers and your blessing, and may this be a fruitful ministry to the men of our diocese.
Thank you, Father John, and I think it'd be a great idea if the money spending switched roles. What do you think, guys? Okay, so we're honored to have today with us Roger David, who is the National Chairman of the Order of St. Ignatius, and he will say a few words on his organization, which many of you belong to.
Good afternoon. Your Eminence, Metropolitan Joseph, Reverend clergy, brothers and sisters in Christ, Christ is in our midst.
He is in our midst.
I've got 5 minutes, and I definitely don't want me to keep it 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you the quick, I've got a copy of the report if you would like to see it, with a lot of the detail. I'm going to hit the highlights. After the pandemic, we hit the ground running. At the direction and approval of His Eminence, we'll be doing inductions and visits of the order very differently from what we've done in the past. We are probably not going to just strictly coordinate our visits with hierarchical visits. We are going to be proactive in going out to parishes to talk about the order, to educate people about the order, and to gain interest in the order outside of just the hierarchical visits. Because many times in those visits, there's no formal banquet or formal event for us to be able to do anything and communicate what the order is doing. So my discussions with St. Joseph back in November of 21, and with his guidance and approval, we will be making these changes. We're still trying to figure out what the logistics will be, but we've already started to do that this year, and the results have been very good. We will be adding probably 6 figures, multiple 6 figures to the endowment this year, and I think right now we're close to around $20,000 of recurring revenue that we have on an annual basis. The membership, everything that we thought was going to happen back in 2015 when we did an actuarial study, it's happening. We are on pace to lose about 25 to 30% of our membership due to age, and our efforts to build the endowment have been working, unbelievably so. And a lot of that work has been done to make sure we know what our membership is and to be able to determine what the trends are. So that is happening, and the building of the endowment went from $5 million to over $10 million at the end of 21. Unfortunately, some of the market returns have had us retreat a little bit, but we are just a little bit behind, probably about 1 year behind in hitting the endowment goal of 11 million, and that will help us generate income to cover the loss from our aging membership. So that is on pace, and Sienna has been very instrumental in making sure that the finances within the Archdiocese and also resulting for the order helps us manage things so much more effectively. I've been in the meetings with His Eminence. He is guiding us and making us work pretty hard. Salima Boone is definitely working very hard on the East Coast, but there are committees that are involved in this, and at Sienna's direction, we have never had more accuracy in the accounting, the details of the finances, so that we can plan much better than what we've been able to do in the past, and that's because His Eminence has made us work very hard at that. Just a couple key pieces of information. May 2022, membership in the order, 2,744. Membership in the order of May 2020, 2,653. We actually went up, even through the pandemic. And I want to thank all of you that have joined the order and committed to that, to our ministry. One of the key things we need help with, ambassadors. We need ambassadors in your parishes. Reverend clergy, please help us. We will send you the list. You will have this list at the clergy symposium. As Eminence has allowed me to come, we're going to have a working meeting for 1 hour, and we're going to talk about the logistics of what we need to do for you to assess where your order members are and who we can call on to help. We need administrative help at the parish level with the ambassadors, and we need to get this done by the end of the year. So we have a goal of hitting 85% of the parishes to have an ambassador by the end of 2022. And that actually will kick off when I come to the clergy symposium. Looking back to 2017, just to give you a couple pieces of information, recurring revenue with Knight and Commander, we have increased recurring revenue by $131,000 since 2017. We also have one-time revenue that's come in through our upgrade programs, through life members, through metropolitan members of almost $600,000, and that gets added to the endowment. We know exactly where we are as far as our membership is. Dr. Ryan, who is at our office in the village, has done an unbelievable job of cleaning up this database, which had not been done for quite some time. So we are very accurate and can really see what the trends are. Maybe we're a few months away from the accuracy that we need, so that again, we can plan and see what the trends are for the order. With everything that we've done with the revenue that we brought in with new and what has left through different reasons, deceased, resigned, went on sabbatical, we have, the annual revenue has dropped by $59,000 on an annual basis, the recurring revenue every year. You say, Roger, you know, that's probably pretty bad. We knew this was coming. We knew it was coming. We're trying to come back, and we've done very good. Thank God to all the members of the order in it only being that small. So we think we're going to be able to recover from that, and we hope to true that up by the end of the year. So I'm just trying to go as fast as I can here. The endowment, we estimate, well, the endowment right now sits at around $8.5 million. Again, it started right around $5 million in 2015. We need, when we're looking at this, to try to true that up to build the endowment where we need it to be. Just as a point of reference, we need 64 full metropolitan members at 30,000, 128 life members at full life member at 15,000. And if we just did upgrades for metropolitan level and life member levels, we need 192 new members that would participate in upgrades. So we have that on the sheets that I gave out last night. If you have any questions on that, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. We are looking for members for the governing council. We have had a lot of loss of membership in the governing council due to the pandemic. So some of the diocese vice chairs and chairs have resigned, and we've had a difficult time in finding replacements. And the biggest reason we're having difficulty finding replacements is because every member of the governing council travels and does things for the order on behalf of the order on their own dime. And that's getting more difficult to do. We give away over 95% of what we bring in to the departments and the projects that as Eminence directs us to do. So it's getting harder and harder for us to find folks that are going to be able to go on their own dime and travel and do things for the governing council and for the order. This year we were happy to sponsor the app. I don't know if all of you downloaded the app. The Order of St. Ignatius was very happy to sponsor that this year and talked to Rod twice, and we're going to fix that even more in the years to come. It helps us get exposure so much more than just the events we have for the order. In the events that we have for the order, the PLCs, we maybe get 80 to 120 people, and most of those are already members. So we needed a way to get around the privacy issues that are presented to us within the Archdiocese. So this app was a way for us to give the order some exposure. So if you download the app, you see the button on the front page, please click the button. That is the end of my remarks. Your Eminence, thank you.
Thank you, Roger, for those enlightening words about the order. And now, if you'll all stand, let's welcome back to the West Coast our Chief Shepherd, our Metropolitan, our Diocesan Bishop, Metropolitan Joseph.
Thank you. So first and foremost, I greet every one of you present here and those who are not here as well. It gives me a joy, a great joy, to see you one more time here in person. And we missed each other for 3 years. We haven't seen each other enough. We saw each other on Zoom and we heard our voices on the phone. That is not enough. So I give thanks to God for you, that being well and being healthy and being here as well. So if I have to start thanking everyone, the list is so big. I thank God for this holy community, the community of the Church of the Redeemer, for hosting this Parish Life Conference after all the troubles and after all the division. And so thank God they took this challenging ministry on themselves and they accepted to host the Parish Life Conference. So I salute Father Samir and Sana and the co-chairs and the entire community of the Church of the Redeemer. Give them love. You know, preparing and leading a Parish Life Conference is not an easy thing, as you know. It takes more than 1 year preparing to have a successful Parish Life Conference. And Lou and his group in CPCC, they kept meeting and kept discussing and preparing. And thank God for also their ministry, and I am very grateful to them. Thank you, Lou, and your group. The organizations, you know, they are doing the work pleasing to God. Today I visited all the organizations. I visited the teens and young and Antiochian women and men's group as well. So it gives me a great hope that our young people, they are the good leaders for this archdiocese and for many years to come. Today, when I visited the teens, and yesterday I spent time with the teens as well, they raised millions of questions and beautiful questions. I couldn't rush with my answers to them because I was very careful. They asked me about cremation, about giving communion to to gays, to the gays, and you know, like what it means, like to be following the Orthodox way, like to be married like to a Christian wife or to Christian husband and something like that. You know, like it's serious. They are serious questions, and I am proud like of our teens like to raise these questions, and I didn't reject any one of them. I welcome their questions. I encourage them to raise more questions about that. So by raising questions, you know, like we say in business, and you know more in business than me, if there are no questions, there are no buyers. So you know, like some of the questions, they stay with me, and I think about them, and maybe in due time, so we'll give more answers. Now we are here. We are here one more time. So what are we called like to accomplish while we are here? You know, our ministry is not a joke. Our ministry is not a little thing. Now we have been tested for a little, and it scared us to death, and it terrified us. I said today in many visitations, I said, look, the people in the old country, now I just came back from Syria after not going there for 12 years. So I saw that a lot of destruction. I saw a lot of poverty, no electricity in Lebanon and in Syria. Imagine like the streets in the evening, dark, completely dark. And people are leaving. In Lebanon now there are no doctors anymore because most of the doctors left because of money. They want to survive. They want to be paid. So they're going to where? Either to the Gulf. Now the Gulf life is so prospering there in those countries, and some of them they leave for the United States, and some of them for Canada, and some of them for Europe, and some of them for Australia. So Lebanon now, we have, like Lebanon used to be like the hospital for the entire Middle East. So now AUB, the St. George Hospital, our St. George Hospital for the Orthodox, and other hospitals, you know, they are suffering because they don't have enough doctors. So we've been tested for a little, but those people have been tested since like for centuries, and they didn't lose their faith. They didn't lose their hope. And they are still proud of being like Christians in general and being Orthodox in particular. So if I take you now on a tour to there, you will start complaining. Oh, we don't have electricity. We cannot, you know, like a shower. We cannot do this, and we cannot. You know, we went through all that. And people, like I was sitting in there, no AC for sure, because there's no electricity. But believe me, that 72 hours I spent in Damascus, I didn't hear complaints. They said, thank God for everything. And repeatedly, they said, thank God for everything. 12 years or 11 years of war, unjust war. And the people are resilient, and they are trying to start again and again and again with all the sanctions they have on Syria. I went around Damascus to some villages I used to teach there, and destruction like Lebanon, it's okay. It's okay, but the people were not crushed. It happened that my cousin, the Metropolitan of Brazil, was supposed to go to Damascus and meet me there and officiate a wedding of his niece. But he got COVID in Brazil and he didn't make it. So while they knew that I was in Damascus, they insisted like to have me go to that wedding. So I saw like millions of people in that wedding. That was the only opportunity I saw, like many dozens, let's say, of people. And they lived like a normal life with all like what I described to you. So beloved in Christ, my point is not to impress you what I did. My mind is here. My life is here. My whole being is here. This is a good testimony for us. This is a good lesson for us not to complain. The other thing I would like to say about complaining and about this, the group to Russia a few years ago, the last day of our trip to Russia, to Moscow, was to the shrine of Saint Matrona the Blind. It was Saturday, raining, heavy rain. The line like to wait for the shrine is about like, without exaggeration, is about a half mile. And people were sitting in the rain and like quiet like this. You know, here when we come to receive communion, we greet each other, like as if like we are coming to be in the kitchen. This is wrong. This is wrong. Look what I heard when I was a little boy by Patriarch Elias.